I told him. Oh, probably. Oh my! That'll get your attention. Here, hold on. College meeting working now. Jennifer, are you way over there?
Hi.
You can hear me though?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Meeting is called to order. If you would give us a roll call, please.
Ruby.
Here.
Marcus.
Here.
Roa. Here. Hankins.
Here.
McInnes.
Here.
Kuntz.
Here.
Calorito.
Here.
Howard is excused.
Okay. Review and approval of the meeting minutes from August 2nd, 2022. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Commissioner Roloff.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McInnes. Any discussion, Mr. Rubin?
Under the Manslaughter building discussion. Second sentence says the health department leases this building from Northern Health Foundation and sublease to various tenants. I'm thinking that should be subleases, or do we have one lease?
Could be somebody says.
Okay.
Yep, I just wanted to be clear.
Adjustment, anything further? Any further discussion? Hearing none. I think we can do this one by voice vote. All in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Review and approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Moved by Mr. McInnes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Calorito. Any further discussion, amendments, changes, anything you want different on our agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Public comment. I think we had discussion at our last meeting that I don't have to go through and read all this because it's posted with the
Part of the agenda,
Part of the
the very
agenda.
last is we expect people to know the rule.
right. Thank you. So, having said that, I'm not going to read these rules. Is there any public comment? Chris, you have a list? Thank you. That is a great question, Jared. I think we're kind of small and informal here. So I think if you have public comment, we don't have a podium for you to approach. But if you want to just stand at your seat and state your name, your county of residence, and then you will have 3 minutes, which Mr. Palorito, I'm sure is going to time. He'll give you a 30-second heads up when that is going to come to an end. So I think I have Brenda Colbita first.
Actually, I'm Terry Dam. If that's okay, I'll go first.
That's fine. Sure.
Okay. My name is Terry Dam. I am from Orange County, and I am, with your permission, donating my 3 minutes to Brenda Colbita.
Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Colbita.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Brenda Colbita. I live in Emmett County. We citizens have concerns regarding who you will choose as health officer of the Health Department of Northwest Michigan. Many of us citizens attended our first Board of Health meeting at the Charles Vine Library in September 2021. It was a historic day and catalyst for positive change. You as a board have come a long way in providing transparency and communication between the Health Department, the Board of Health, and the citizens of the 4 counties that you represent. We are proud of this board for the positive changes you made in regard to public speaking. We're thankful for your continued support of our right to address grievances. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, we have seen unprecedented attacks on our freedoms and especially on our personal health autonomy. Our once trusted institutions, the Center for Disease Control, NIH, and FDA, have lied to us. They lied regarding the efficacy of masks, the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccination, and now it appears they lied about the use of ivermectin. Originally, ivermectin was discouraged as used by doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals. Ivermectin as an antiviral treatment of that providers were vilified, blacklisted, and licenses threatened or revoked if they dared to prescribe this drug. The persecution of healthcare providers continues to this day. The COVID-19 vaccine is still an experimental treatment. Silencing healthcare workers is something that is changing as we speak. Many are publicly addressing this issue for the first time. Steve Kirsch of Substack on August 26, 2022, did a survey of healthcare workers online. The mainstream press will not share this information. This isn't misinformation. These are all true stories, many of which are impossible to explain if the vaccines are truly safe and effective. Taken together, they are a stunning indictment of a medical system that has been corrupted through government incentives. Mr. Kirsch created a forum to ask healthcare workers to speak anonymously. Here's some of what they said in their own words. They are afraid to come out publicly due to intimidation tactics, such as loss of job and or license to practice medicine. Unvaccinated healthcare workers are extremely upset with the medical community. They feel they have been treated unfairly. Doctors are seeing rates of injury and death increase dramatically in all age of people. The injuries are only happening to the vaccinated. There is no doubt that this is happening, but many doctors have so much cognitive dissonance that they just don't see it. One nurse with 23 years of experience said she's never heard of anyone under 20 dying from cardiac issues until the vaccines rolled out. Now she knows around 30 deaths. Doctors are deliberately ignoring the possibility that the vaccines could be the cause of the elevated events. The events are simply unexplained. Many doctors have either quit or will quit. Things don't seem to be getting any better. The medical examiners all over the world are not doing the proper tests during an autopsy to detect a vaccine-related death. Without doing the necessary tests, it's very hard to make an association. There isn't a single guidance document from any medical authority anywhere in the world to do these tests on people who died within 3 months of their last COVID vaccination. This is why no associations are found, they aren't looking, and it is deliberate. This is chilling and disturbing. It's exactly for these reasons we appeal to you today. Please remember we the citizens, including our dedicated healthcare professionals, when you make your decision on hiring the new health officer. Each of you represent 4 counties of citizens who have no voice except through you. Please take into account how much power this one person, the health officer, holds over people's lives. Please choose wisely. We are counting on you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. Item number 6 on our agenda is a discussion of the health officer position. And you will turn in your packet. I did have a meeting with Mr. Thorell and Ms. Kemp from Human Resources. We had, I think, a productive discussion. There's a couple of different tracks that we can take here, and they're laid out pretty well here. And this is not a final document by any means. This is kind of a working draft, in my opinion, anyway. Meaning that we can make amendments to these tracks depending on the desires of this board. If you look with me, track number 1 talks about seeking outside candidates for the position. And what we would do there is post to, and you're going to have to help me with Mel.
Michigan Association of Local Public Health.
Okay, so the Michigan Association of Local Public Health is a free posting. Michigan Association of Counties costs us between $75 and $100 to post an ad there. There's recruiting companies, which are kind of the expensive way to go. Meaning that if we take a candidate from there, they would charge us 25 to 30% of the first year salary of the party that we might hire. Indeed.com, Chambers of Commerce. In other words, we would post it in a number of different places. Once we had received applicants, we would come up with a hiring committee. And this is, again, this is a kind of a working document. We talked about possibly having 3 or 4 Board of Health members, and possibly adding some health department staff to come up with a hiring committee. We would go through and review the applicants, and then there'd be interviews, potentially virtual or in person, for the first or second interviews, and then the third interview would be in person. There would then be a job offer. We would do a background check, going through, probably through Pinnacle Investigations, which the health department HR staff has used in the past. Reference checks, drug screen, physical exam, and then a negotiated contract. That would be track number 1 if we were to go and seek outside candidates for the position. Track number 2 would be to offer this position to Mr. Thorell. We would conduct a performance evaluation that would be conducted by the Board of Health. And then I think the order here would be backwards, but we would also do a background check on Dan through Pinnacle Investigations, and then making a job offer and go through with the contract negotiations and take away the interim part and make him our local public health officer. So today's goal is to determine whether or not we're going to proceed with track 1 or track 2. If we are going to go with track 1, Dan can still submit his resume, and I don't know if you have a CV or, but he can be one of our candidates as well. We would determine if there's or who would be on the hiring committee, and if we decide to go with track 2, we can schedule a performance evaluation. Now, that's what we have laid out for us here. I'm going to, well, before I weigh in, because I have an opinion. I know that shocks you, Charlie. I would like to open it up to the board and see what your thoughts are. Mr. Marcus.
I mean, obviously, whether it's in sports, private or public enterprises, you always look for the best candidate, no matter what. You can't win the Stanley Cup with a team that's everyone belongs there. You got to have someone grudges about everybody else. So I really believe that even though you have a good team, you still got to look for someone who's a shining star or better than everybody else. So I do think it's important to at least put it out there and look for somebody who is got experience, who could continue to be a mentor of the rest of the directors within the department.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Palorito, what are your thoughts? I'll just go around the table, so you know it's kind of a spot. Yeah.
Thanks. No, I agree. I think, Mr. Mark, I think we need to open it up. Obviously, welcome Mr. Thorell's application if he wishes to. I think he's doing a fine job, so I would consider him a high applicant. But I think we need to open it up to everybody.
Thank you.
So I'm saying track 1 as well. Because my opinion,
It's a combination of really.
yeah, yes.
Okay, Mr. Rubin.
The health officer is obviously the top of the organization. It's important, very important. When I think about an effective person at the top of an organization, the first thing that I think about is communication. And for last year's troubles, I had none. And Mr. Farrell has already reached out and talked to me. And I value someone who is not afraid to reach out and talk to people. Communication. I think with some proper communication, a lot of our troubles could have been avoided in the past year. We'd have taken some communication with the public and some communication with school people and communication with doctors, and instead of mandates. So I guess all that being said, no matter which track we go with, I think Mr. Farrell's got a leg up. I think he's already close to the top of the ladder. So I don't want to spend a ton of money on this. And so I guess I'm leaning towards track 2 at this point.
Okay. Ms. Roloff.
Well, I've been sitting back kind of watching what he's been doing. And I've seen some good projects going on with so it's like, I have confidence in Dan. I think we all do, and I think I don't want to jump into anything, but I may think it does need some time, but I think maybe we're looking at the right person. I hope and believe that we probably are. I don't want to jump right into the thing, but I think that he has given me, and I've sat back and we sit back and watch. And I'm not like that. I usually jump in feet first. And this way, I think Dan and I are just now beginning to understand each other. I don't think that it's something that I've jumped into. I've been just back watching what he's done. And I think he's carried us through pretty darn good. So I would be in favor of really giving him a shot at it too. Something we have to really think about and work at. It's not an overnight thing that we want to be doing. But it's going to take a little time, and I think it's taken us some time. So far I do have him in my window. So.
Okay. Thank you, Shirley. Matt.
I favor track 2. I suppose I have to hear what Mr. Farrell has to say, and I suppose you probably talking about how you probably have. And then if that doesn't work out, well, we can do something else, but that's my preference.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I've done both on school boards and at the county, and I prefer to hire someone that I know, that I have experience with, who has done remarkable work in a relatively short period of time. I did not want to be a part of this organization when I was thrust into it last fall. It's a different organization today. I dread the meetings 10% less. And maybe somebody, but I do believe that I have seen Dan, we have seen Dan. Team building takes time. I think the analogy about an athletic team is appropriate, but team building does take time, and that's why. And I've done both tracks, and I think your outline for one is interesting. There's actually more that needs to be done. But I think you know that, I mean, this was a draft. There's actually more to it than this, but typically you meet people, hopefully you learn a little bit about them in a short period of time. Whereas our internal candidate, we have had like an extraordinary amount of time, so I'm inclined for trying to.
Thank you. I don't want to cut anybody off if you have anything further, because I'm going to opine for a minute or two, but.
Except one more little bit.
Yes.
I didn't want to go into the details of the posting, but if there's a concern about costs, I mean, the amount of people that will be reached with just 3 of those is going to be huge. I mean, with the Michigan counties, we have partners within partners within the state. We have the Association of the Mental Health Professionals, doctors. We have planners, the administrators who all have connections throughout the whole state. There's lots of ways to get the word out to attract somebody, by the way. And of course, you got the free postings for the health professionals and our local chambers. So I don't think that's a concern we should be worried about right now. I don't think it's a position we're going to take somebody from out of state to come here, to be honest with you. But I think over the wake of the last 3 years, there have been some medical professionals that maybe feel it's time for them to be involved more, and not just in their field, but in more of a health provider or health or director field. So I want to see what's out there, and I definitely don't want to diminish. I can't help but analogy hockey. Hockey's in my brain. I played it my whole life. You know, we won the Stanley Cup with the third line in 1997, right? We really did. The grind line was they scored the goal to win. Took us to the overtime, took us to the playoffs. But at the same time, you got to have somebody that we brought in. That goalie we brought in was a veteran many years, and we did it with him. So that's why I use that analogy. That's about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm in favor of track 2. Here's why. Dan is a known entity. And we've had the benefit of having him function in this role in the interim basis. I got to know him initially when he was still a deputy health officer, and we sat through some interesting sanitary board of appeals hearings. Dan is, at least in those meetings, is exactly like he is here. He is a calm presence. He is a thoughtful person. He is, he's a level head. I've seen him kind of rein in some of his staff who don't have some of those same characteristics. He's a known entity. I think that because of all of those characteristics, he's been a good leader for our organization. And in my mind anyway, to keep things, we're not in the paper every week anymore. And I think to keep a steady course of action for the health department staff, Dan is a good fit for that position in a permanent in a permanent role. I think also that there is some benefit to promoting from within. If someone is starting as a health department staff member tomorrow, and we were to offer Dan the full-time position, they can say to themselves, wow, I can grow in this organization. I can further myself in this organization. Instead of 6 months down the road, I'm going to find a better gig. Because that happens way too often in today's workforce. So we have a couple of tracks that we can consider here. And I've never I've never given that kind of ringing endorsement to anybody else, Dan. I want you to know that I appreciate what you do. And I'm not saying that these other commissioners, by saying, if we vote to go to track 1, I certainly want you to apply. And I've expressed that to you already. I'm thankful that Dan is willing to consider the position. Because I think he is a good candidate for this spot. So, having
just say a couple words?
Please.
Sure, not to interrupt you.
No, I'm done.
No, I was just gonna say, well, first of all, thank you all for the kind words. And either track, I see pros and cons. And I respect the board's decision. I respect your opinions about, opening it up to the outside, world and seeing who wants to apply. Like I said, I would, throw my hat into the ring for that too. And there's some positives to that. And there's, some of the negatives they brought up, not knowing the person or whatever. So either way, like I respect the board's direction and opinion, and just want to say, I've enjoyed, working with you all, and just really, care about the agency, care about the staff, and just really want to, see things progress in a forward manner. That's really, that's really my goal here. So.
Sir, I guess it really don't need to be further into discussion. Obviously, by just the numbers alone, we know we have a consensus. So we could assume that track 2 is going to move forward. So with that being said, the assumption, I believe that it's still prudent to do an interview privately, so we can ask the questions. I think that's what we're going to do, that, right? Interviews in private.
Well, one thing
I'm not sure.
One thing you can do, it's a performance evaluation if the employee requests a closed session.
Yeah, I think important.
And
How does that work even the interviews?
well, this wouldn't be an interview; it's a performance
Well, it
evaluation.
is
but
an
it's
interview
good anyway,
because you
so.
do an interview because for them to lose, not for them to get. I mean, an interview could expose something that you definitely don't want, and that's a fact. I mean, a lot of times I got recruited for a company. It was my job. It was my job to lose when I got there for the interview. But I already was told, hey, you want it, but you got to go through the interview process. And you know what? I could have screwed it all up and lost that job, but I didn't.
I don't think the Open Meetings Act gives you space to do that.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's why you have to make it a performance.
You'd have to
appraisal.
do it as a non-quorum subcommittee. Yeah,
But a performance appraisal is a fair thing to do.
but that could, performance.
I mean, you
appraisal can be done as requested as.
Regardless of what else is going on, if we say we'd like to do whatever months it is, 6-month performance appraisal, that's fair. And if Dan requests a closed session, then we can do a performance appraisal. You can call it a job interview afterwards, but to meet the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, it would have to be a performance appraisal, which I think is a fair thing to do anyway. Would that sort of halfway cure what you're?
Yeah, I met with that as a general question, to be honest with you.
I think that would.
There was a statement about what I believe we should do, but within the realms of what we're allowed to do.
Yeah, right. And we could make a motion to adopt track 2 contingent upon a successful performance review. I don't know.
I think that's right. I'm just trying to think through, and I'm sure that you guys are better versed in Open Meetings Act than I am.
Well, unless he's going to sell us some real estate, then we could do it under the real estate.
If there's a bridge that's for sale, we don't want it.
I mean, we never did see the resume physically, did we?
Well, I suggested to him when we had this meeting, we were talking about this list, that maybe we should have done this background investigation prior to our interview.
Well, the motion could be to adopt track 2 contingent upon successful completion of a job application, background check, and performance appraisal. All those are legitimate things to ask for. Two of them don't require a meeting, submission of a resume, and background check. And the third thing is a performance appraisal, which we can do in a closed session, at his request.
Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. Now we're I will say, to talk about that, we did make sure prior to appointing Dan as the interim health officer, we made sure that he had the proper qualifications per state statute to make sure that he had the proper education, and he was approved by MDHHS to assume that position. So we didn't completely go into it blind, but we did a little background there. So, Mr. McInnes, I think you have a motion. I'll make a motion. Does that work for you, Christian? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't want to go too, I mean, and I think I don't mean to interrupt you. Please. I do mean to interrupt you. I understand fully what you're saying about opening the door.
I'm just trying to cross T's and dot I's so people don't get criticize me for not doing my due diligence.
And I get that, and there is there's some legitimacy to that. Shannon, we were fortunate to find Shannon to come back here from Tennessee, I believe it was, right?
Sir.
But she happened to have a family connection here. It's hard to attract professionals to Northern Michigan. A view of the bay is worth half the pay, right? Anyway. You wanted to proceed with your motion, Mr. McInnes.
All right, and then I will propose or move that the board adopt track 2, contingent upon a successful completion of a performance review of Dan Durrell, successful submission of a resume, job application, and successful passage of a background check conducted by Pinnacle Investigations. That sound fair? I didn't put it in closed session because we can't tell him. I mean, he has to say, or maybe he wants to do it in an open session, but we have to, only he can decide that. So that's the motion. That's second.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. McInnes, seconded by Mr. Palorito to take track 2 with those contingencies noted. Is there any further discussion from the board? Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, further on in the track 2, it says review of this by the candidate attorney and health department attorney. In Antrim County, most of the time we review this with human resources. Is there a specific reason we need an attorney to review this? I mean, it isn't that complicated to have a background check. I forgot the other 2 things you mentioned right now.
A background check, performance appraisal, and submission of a resume.
Right. This is after the negotiation, everything's done already. Now the contract's in place. That's why that word is.
Now we already have, because we adopted a job description.
Yeah.
So that part of it is clear. But that element of legal review, I presume that he will want to have a legal representative look at it on his behalf. I recall hiring an administrator in Emory County and flipping through it thinking, well, I'll hire you any day if you are going to agree to this, because and he made a mistake. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. I presume Dan will. On the other hand, the Board of Health probably should have a legal review. Well, the HR attorney that you already use, Laura Dinan, could provide that relatively simply, but I think it's appropriate to have just say, okay, don't forget this and that.
I think that's a very valid point, especially given our recent history. And I think that it's anytime we enter into a contract, I think we should have it reviewed by an attorney. That's why we pay for them.
Right.
I missed the part that said contract. I was thinking about the motion and not specifically after all those things are complete, or mostly complete, and then looking at the contract for both parties to sign. So,
Okay, yeah,
it makes sense to me.
okay. Okay, so we have a motion before the board. I think I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote, Jennifer.
McKinnon,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Colorado,
Yes.
Ruby,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Rolla,
Yes,
Hankins.
Yes,
Motion passed.
right. So,
Thank you for the write-up. Your work.
no, this was, HR and, well, HR, myself and Mr. Farrell.
Thank you.
Sat down, did these two tracks and kind of, we just wanted to have a,
All right, that's excellent.
have a path for us to follow. Okay. Assuming that all goes well, Mr. Farrell, congratulations. But we know what happens when we assume.
Right.
So, item number 7.
Well, Scott, before we leave that,
Yes,
we should schedule a performance review.
we should, and in fact, I think we should.
We're gonna do it later in the agenda then?
No, we can, I think we can, let's tackle it now while we're here and well, it's all fresh in our mind. I think that's a great point, Charlie. I don't have my calendar with me, but we can make something work. When would work best for this board to meet? And I think we can have our, I don't need to know what you're doing. I need to know what I'm doing. Well, it's. I think the full board should have an opportunity to meet with Mr. Farrell. Are you going to ask for that to be an open session or a closed session for your performance review?
I don't know.
Okay,
I haven't really thought about
that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
Because I just threw it at you.
Yeah.
I think what we can do, because this board loves to schedule special meetings. I think that was in jest, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can, and it would be appropriate for us to have just your performance review in a meeting instead of tacking it onto a regular board meeting. So where are we at? Okay, I am back. It's the calendar, Charlie.
The next meeting is October 4th.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. So how does this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We could do it prior to the next meeting. We're gonna have the Personnel and Finance Committee at 3 o'clock prior. So of course that screws up school for you. So that
I was just gonna ask if we could do Monday, the 26th. At 4:30 in Charlotte Way. I think that date works. If you have your calendars for that common stuff.
No, it does not, because that week would be, it would be the alternate. So 26th is the Monday prior.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be 4:30.
It can be 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, I might make it.
Okay, okay. No, that's, oh, you know what? I knew this is, okay. Monday the 26th is not a good date for me.
Right, for your prior Monday 19th.
No, that's Michigan Association of Counties Conference in Port Huron on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Do we have anything on Tuesday, the 27th?
We're doing 5, that'd be fine.
Okay, so potentially, right now, let's potentially schedule a performance review on Tuesday, September 27th. No, September, this one, okay, yeah. Be prior to our next board meeting. At 5 o'clock PM at the Charlevoix office. And I will, email each of you, or I will have Jennifer email each of you. If for some reason there's a conflict with that date, and, that'll give Dan an opportunity to consider whether or not they must have open session or closed session. That gives us plenty of time to develop the meeting.
And you might want to ask the HR person if that person could offer a suggestion regarding structure.
I think we have, I did, in my meeting with Laura and Dan, we did talk about a performance review form.
Okay.
And I think we should be able to email that out to everybody as well. Right, Jen?
Yep.
I'm sorry,
Now you said Charlotte, like you're talking the.
at the main health department building, yes. Yes,
Oh, the health.
well, because I don't want to speak for Charlotte County on that particular date right now.
Oh, okay.
So that's a
But
conference.
we have a conference room downstairs at the health department office, so we could.
Okay.
Okay. Jen, you got all those details, yes, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
I don't know what your performance evaluation form will look like, but if there's staff input needed on the day-to-day operations, feel free to send that
Okay,
to
all right, thank you,
Collier.
thank you, maybe, well, what's the pleasure of the board? You want to have input from the department heads as part of the review process? I would like to. I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not.
We did an impromptu one in Emmett County that our HR director proposed, and it was 3 questions of the administrator. What should you start doing? What should you stop doing? And what should you keep doing?
You just gave him some 3 answers for it.
It was actually kind of amazing. We put up flip charts and said, all right. And what it did was it structured a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience in that is, it works, as long as there's relativity of, I'm saying the wrong word, whenever they someone feels they can speak freely without.
Right.
Potential. So, I think it should be in a question and answer form, or basically answer these ways, they submit it to the board.
For department heads, you
Yes.
mean? Okay.
Because who's not gonna wanna sit in front of somebody, tell them how great they are? I mean, just, that's the way it is in reality.
So you're saying to give them some anonymity?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We don't want to go to another 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's getting dark enough already, isn't it? Okay. Well. So. Let's have a consensus from the board. Do we want to have, our department heads submit,
reached back out to Northern Health Foundation and, told them about the discrepancy, we discussed the issue, we need more bids because we needed to do the whole roof for this part of the building. And anyways, they got the winning bid back of $72,307, which was included in the packet and covers the entire roof for this particular building, the building that was built in 1996. And that's where we're at right now. So, and also just to give you the, the full information. So going through this process, they identified some funds that we had paid extra over the years when paying on this building that they could use to bring that cost down a little bit for us. So I'm asking that you consider amended lease for $65,000. It would increase our payment by approximately, I said in here $750. We actually got the amended lease from the attorney, and it's more like $650 over a 10-year period. So once, if we get the green light, Blackfish Construction Company, who did bid on as the bid that we're talking about, can begin in 3 to 4 weeks, and it's critical, I believe, to get this this roof taken care of before winter. So,
Christian, I know you had a question. I was looking at the bid and it says this proposal is valid for 10 days and that's dated August 29th. So I think if we're going to take action on this particular proposal, we need to do so tonight to get into that 10-day time frame for that price.
It's important to note that the price will go up after that too.
I'm sure, Mr. Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I made the motion to in the first one because I knew it was a great deal, but obviously that was a pipe dream. But I'll amend my motion if you like to.
I think you need a new motion.
Do we need a new one?
Well, I think so, because
We already voted on a minute.
we already voted on the other one.
Yeah.
Then I'll make this motion.
65,000. Okay.
I'll support.
Well, okay. Been moved by Mr. Marcus, supported by Mr. Rubin. Dan, you're asking for $65,000. That's not necessarily a hard number, is that correct?
I believe it is a hard number, because anything that's in addition to that can be covered by some of these contingency funds that were built up over the years. And that's actually have the amended lease document here with me that is for the chairperson to sign.
Okay.
This is,
And that's for 65,000?
yes.
Okay.
And I can share that, with you.
All right. Thank you. Anything further from the board? We have a motion before us. It's been seconded. Anything further? Discussion by Mr. Rubin.
Well, just to make clear the motion.
Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. For Blackfish Construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, I always like to see 2 or 3 quotes, and I think you mentioned that there was more or there wasn't.
There was, yeah. So the contractor that was bidding the first time sent in another bid, and that was like 90,000. Then I believe there was another bid that was very close to this particular bid, but it didn't include the interior drywall.
Okay.
Yeah, and this, Northern Health Foundation owns the building, so they were the ones getting the bids.
Right.
Right.
I just like to see it practiced, so I'm
Yep.
glad that it was, and I feel good about it, so.
Good. I would like to make a motion to rescind last month's meeting, so it's on record, so people 10 years from now go, which one's which?
Well, I think the minutes are going to reflect the changes and it's in his report, so I think.
But we made a motion to spend money on another company. We
Okay.
rescinded that motion.
All right, so just playing by Robert's rules, if I got this straight, we already have a motion in a second to approve the Blackfish Construction Company. So before we get to that other motion, or do we get,
If the person making the motion and the person seconding it wanted to add an amendment that in addition to adopting the Blackfish, you rescind the previous motion, the previous purchase, you could have it all wrapped up in one, that'd be easy to read.
I like that better. Jennifer, are you clear?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 second. Really, the motion should be for, to execute an amended lease with Northern Health Foundation for that $65,000 amount. And it can include with the quote for Blackfish Construction
And the rescission of the previous, amendment to the lease.
I love it when we amend and change the motions. So Jennifer, what do you have for motion right now?
I'm all over the place.
That's what I thought. So let's make this clear. For the record, because we are spending some money here.
A proposed amendment to the lease with NHF for the amount of $65,000 to replace the roof repair and drywall damage to original MFRC building. In addition, rescinding whatever the date that was.
August 2022.
Yeah,
August 2nd.
of the 49,649 with someone other person in the company right now.
Okay. Jennifer, are you clear there?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, did you mention the extended lease? That's kind of what, right?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're probably gonna get that verbiage from the recording, correct?
Oh, yes. thank you.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Rubin, you were the second. Are you in agreement with those amendments and that clarification on the motion? I'm good with that. Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Rolla,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
McKinnon,
Yes.
Coon,
Yes.
Valerito,
Yes.
Ruby,
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Staff reports, Mr. Corelli, you continue, and then Dawn Marie is waiting patiently.
Yes, would you like the second part of that building memo? I think at the last meeting, really quick, we had brought a project to the board for your consideration. You considered it, and we wanted to get more information, and just wanted to kind of bring you up to date on that. I asked, well, actually, Kathleen Jukanovich, meeting health director, mentioned that the school, we might be able to move our Ironman Health Center from this building into the high school as a possibility. So she reached out, I asked her to reach out to the superintendent, Jeff DeRosa, and to just explore that possibility. Mr. DeRosa was open to that, but not necessarily right now. They are having some declining enrollment at the school, and thought that maybe there would be some space available. There are some advantages to having, instead of a school link clinic, to have a school-based clinic. It's easier for students to access the clinic. I think it's been shown, that numbers of clients have increased in that situation. So anyways, we still have the space concerns and space needs here, but moving that health center out of this space and into the school would free up space here where we can simply renovate instead of putting on an addition. And that's something I think that we need to flush out and see if it will work. And just, get more information. So I think really it makes sense, and it's prudent to put the addition of what we proposed at the last meeting on hold until we get some questions answered.
I think Manzanillo just had a millage request for some construction in their school buildings.
I know the village.
And I don't know if you spoke about that or not. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm the nurse practitioner here at the Ironman Health Center.
Yes, ma'am.
So the millage that got passed through recently did include some in construction, but it's not for space. They're putting in like a nice renovated, like a clubhouse kind of a thing over by the football fields and stuff. So there's like a concession stand and locker rooms and bathrooms and stuff. It's not, and then there's some like renovations in the school, but it's not like an addition or anything.
I see.
Does that have to answer your question?
Yes, it does. Well, right, and maybe I had some conflicting information, so thank you for that clarification. But I think you're right, Dan, until we know, we don't know.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's definitely worth, figuring out, getting some questions answered that we have. And if there is a path, that we can do that with the school, I think it makes sense. So, yeah, and we'll just have to come back. If that doesn't work out, then we'll just have to come back and bring it to the Board of Health at a later date.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, number 8, staff reports.
Got a question about one of them when it's time. Okay. Dan, under Andrea, budget narrative, there was something in here. I think this was the one.
I don't want to speak on it, we don't, the young lady with her supposed to be next.
Is she next? I wasn't clear when you said that.
Yeah, well, actually, yes.
That's fine.
Yes, hold your thoughts. I have a question also. So,
Yeah, that's why I was.
go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, we typically, so.
Actually, and before you get to Dawn Marie, I know you're anxious to go,
I'm not.
but I had an opportunity to meet Shannon, but would you introduce her?
Yes, absolutely. That was my first order of business.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to introduce our new Chief Financial and Administrative Officer, Shannon Klonowski. Who started with us approximately a week ago. So just want to welcome Shannon, and she, I think, is going to be a great addition to our team. So appreciate that she's here.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Appreciate having you on board.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So staff highlight, we invited Dawn Marie Strail here to talk about the Oral Health Kindergarten Assessment Program, which is a brand new program that was mandated by the state of Michigan recently, and we're just basically in the planning stages and going into the implementation stage here shortly. So I will let Dawn Marie take it from there.
Well, thank you for inviting me, first of all. I introduce myself as the friendly dental hygienist because that's really what I am, okay? I've been a hygienist for close to 40 years. I've been with the health department for 7. I was lured away from private practice. I practiced in East Jordan, and it was really a great step for me to step into public health. So my title is I'm the Regional Oral Health Coordinator. I penetrate into many communities outside our 4 counties, so I have a pretty large area. Just a little bit of background about the health department, and some very forward thinking when it comes to oral health is they've had a dental hygienist as a coordinator since 2010. And one of the tasks is to do school screenings, and that to date, I think the health department has done over 40,000 school screenings in our region. So when I came on 7 years ago, that's what I was tasked with. Our program has grown, and a little bit of background about this legislation. So we've been working on it to add another essential service. Hearing and vision, as we know, is an essential service that we provide, and it falls on the shoulders of health departments. So when this legislation was introduced for oral health screening for kindergartners, I was very involved over the last 5 years. And again, when legislation is passed, there's always give and take. And one of the takes was that it had to be done by a dental professional, a dental hygienist, a dentist, or a dental therapist. And I'll get to what a dental therapist is later on here. So at any rate, this legislation was passed, so it's a change in the public health code. So as an essential service, it's hearing, vision, and oral health screenings for kindergartners or first graders. The state has funded that now, and we waited a little bit for some funding. And now that funding mechanism will go through the school aid budget. So that is a good thing because it will be funded from this point forward. So the fiscal year that it was funded for was this year. So we're using that as a planning throughout the state, and it'll be lifted off the ground for the spring. And again, the leg up that we have is this is what I've done in our wheelhouse. So we're you know, kind of partnering up with other health departments that have oral health coordinators. And the state just finally 10 days ago hired a coordinator at the state level. So looking forward to working with the state. So again, it's planning and looking forward to doing it because that's what we do. I have a couple of things here that I just wanted to share with you so you can see the impact of what the oral health programs has done for your counties. And Jennifer, if you want to, yeah, go just give it, you can do that. That one, go for it. Okay. Yes. So here we go. Take this one through. So it just gives you a snapshot of we know how the oral, and maybe you didn't know that we had a dental hygienist that goes into your counties and does the screenings, and we do sealants too. So for those of you who don't know what dental sealants are, we actually have a Seal Michigan grant that we actually go into schools and place sealants on children's teeth. So we also. So something about the this new health code change is we're really partnering up with general dentists and health departments, federally qualified health centers that have dental programs. This is about hopefully that your child will have a dental appointment before kindergarten, and they'll have that checked in the box along with and just there's a health appraisal form that actually Head Start or preschoolers go through to go into kindergarten, and it's a green form, and it just has the immunization, physical, and they've added the new section in the green form for dental exams or oral health assessments in the green form that parents will get when their child is going into kindergarten. So at any rate, that's just what you have, and what you have is just a great snapshot of. It was pre-pandemic. The last year that I screened, I think there were close to 4,000 kids on screen, and then just I broke down your counties to how we penetrate into our counties, and I do have other counties that I go into, but I just pulled for our 4 counties. For assessment.
So don't worry, this was not for kindergartners.
No, that's pre. So the health department, we did really pre-K through, and many schools let me go into the high school too. So
but they weren't.
Preschool.
But now they are.
Now it's targeted to kindergarten.
And they have to. No, it's not. They don't have to, but
no,
they should.
Right. It's an essential service that is again and again when I talk about give and take when it comes to legislation. Again, they put in that a dental hygienist, a dentist, or a dental therapist, but they didn't put the language in that you shall have. It's you may. So have that dental screening. So it's really quite a beautiful thing because we're dovetailing it. Again, the state has kind of put it on the shoulders of health departments because we already have hearing and vision, and it's a beautiful way to dovetail it into hearing, vision, and oral health.
What age do you apply to?
So permanent 6-year molars. So we target kindergarten, first and second graders when 6-year permanent, and then 12-year molars, 7th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So
ideally you do it a couple of times.
Right. So actually we're in a dental professional shortage. So with my Seal Michigan grant, I don't turn away any grade. And to date, we've done about 1,700 sealants. And in my book, that's a lot of prevention.
So you have a lot of existing fillings. Do those get sealants as well? Or?
No. Right. So at any rate, this program it's wonderful for the fact that it's really been set up. And again, my hat's off to some very forward thinkers that have given me an opportunity to maybe I don't work in private practice treating one patient at a time, but I've been able to move the needle in community and make a difference. So any questions about, you know, the new, the one handout is from the state. They just, again, we're getting some language now, how we're going to be messaging folks, superintendents, teachers, public health on this new kindergarten screening. So, yeah.
Also, I noticed that Petoskey schools are not.
Right. For the fact that when we do this, we use the free and reduced lunch. And this is very interesting because I'm kind of an, I like data and data guides a good story. And so when this is going to be interesting because when we can go into Petoskey or Harbor Springs or other schools that have a very low free or reduced lunch, that data will be very valuable. So we'll be able to see what those kids really look like that I've not been into Petoskey. I've not been into Harbor Springs. So
But you will be now.
yes, kindergarten, right. Okay.
This bar chart,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Are these based on these admission requirements now before school?
Yeah, there's
Fill out those forms.
right. There's a green. Everybody knows the green form. Moms do kindergarten, and this is a health appraisal form, and it's been around for a long time, and they just added section 5. So.
And that's where a parent can say they've already seen a dentist from their,
Right.
their
Or they
insurance or whatever they have.
As a dental hygienist too, I've signed tons of these, you know, when they come to the dentist. So again, this is kind of a big partnership with family dentists. It's not just we're going to go in and screen teeth. We really, my hope is that by the time kindergarten rolls around, I mean, I teach age 1, first 2 dental appointments. So the health department is really tasked on picking up the kids that maybe will fall through the cracks. And I always challenge my colleagues, my dental friends and stuff, if you want to see something, come and look over my shoulder when I do these school screenings or my sealant clinics where there are children that have severe, you know, decay and are in pain. And that's the beauty of my job, is really connecting to dental homes and helping them navigate the system. So, great.
The question I had was on this bar chart.
Sure.
I presume there is a child who would be in more than one bar on this thing, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So a child that has existing fillings might also have permanent teeth missing, might also have suspected decay, tissue inflamed. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. And if you're interested too, I can take that and break it down to your counties too, to see what your counties look like. You know, I just pulled that together. I know I only have 10 minutes and I'm an Irish girl and have the gift of gab. So trust me, we can go on and on about oral health. So at any rate, really looking forward to it. Again,
if you can provide this by county, I would prefer if you could give it to me for Emmett County only. I don't want to compare it to somebody else's county and say, look at me, I'm better than somebody else.
And in Emmett County, you'll look on the schools that are listed in Emmett County on the previous page there, Pellston, Alanson, different schools in Emmett County that I do volunteer. Absolutely. So, and also just another note, I do sit on the board of dentistry for the state of Michigan. I represent the dental hygienist, and I feel that sometimes we get a little bit gypped because Southeast Michigan gets all the attention. So being appointed on that board kind of gives a voice what we see in rural Michigan and other programs that I do too. So I didn't know that. Any other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask you a question. How many kindergartners are we expecting in
So
4 counties?
So for this fiscal year, we have our 4 counties, and then because I'm regional, I have Grand Traverse, Leelanau, Benzie, and I have close to about 2,050 kindergartners entering kindergarten. And when I look at that number and think of 4,000 or 5,000 kids I've dealt with in the past. Again, I have built a team of dental hygienists that are trained into going into classrooms and public health to collect that data and to do that job. And it's kind of, so I'm building that team. Thank you. Any other dental questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have something.
Go ahead.
This young lady and I go back a long way, and she's educated me with this program. I don't know how many years ago it's been, but I have sat and listened to her tell me about young kids that she had met up with, and how sometimes she has to go to school and find them. And she someday maybe she'll come in and tell you some of her tales, but boy, she woke me up years ago.
I guess my tale is, you know, is to come and look over my shoulder, and that's what really keeps me quite passionate about it. We have the technology, we know how to prevent disease or you know, PPK and everything else. So thank you. Yeah, thanks, Shirley. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. All right, looks like we're on to the national fiscal year 2023 budget. We have budget memo that is included in so to have lots of in my paper. Thank you. Okay. You know, basically in September, we need to bring the amended fiscal year budget, or not the amended fiscal year, sorry, last month. The initial 2023 budget to the Board of Health for consideration and approval prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, which starts October 1st already. So Andrea has worked very hard on the budget, and we are bringing that to you. The highlights of changes are delineated in the budget narrative, which basically is a 1.3% increase from the 2022 revised amended budget. We are projecting, let's see, approximately $1,030,724 higher than last year, mainly due to salary increases. A lot of this is because of increased program costs due to our school nurse program and behavioral health, mental health program in the schools, which has expanded throughout this year within the family health program and community health program. That, along with the 3% increase in salaries, and we are also building into this budget some anticipated increased cost for medical insurance. Also in this budget, we are increasing, modest increase in dental health fees, so 3%, roughly some less than 2%, to offset inflationary costs, some of the salary costs and everything else that we're seeing increased costs in. We, as part of that process, and I have that additional information here if anybody would like to see it, but I have bar graphs showing what the environmental health fees are across northern Michigan. And we are trying to, we want to stay basically in the same context with other health departments generally, and it looked like we were running higher than what some of the other northern health departments are doing for fees, and we didn't do a fee increase for those particular programs. One example that would be like the pool program for pool license inspection, pool inspections, and also campground inspections. We kept that flat because we were right up there with some other health departments, and wanted to just not increase that anymore, so we can stay kind of in that realm with the others, the other health departments in middle to northern Michigan. So I would like the board to consider approving this initial budget for fiscal year 2023. Andrea is available here to answer any questions you might have for Shannon.
She's probably not the better.
She's the weekend, so I'd be, try to be kind, but I think most of this work Andrea has done, and so she'll be able to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Mr. McGinnis, you had a question on?
I don't. I was trying to find a question from something else. This wasn't it, so no, I'm good. This question's been answered.
All right,
Thank you.
Oh, I should mention too that this budget was given at the Personnel Finance Committee as well, which was approved to come to you guys or to the full board for consideration. So
yeah, we didn't really make a recommendation. We listened, we asked some questions, and our motion was to just bring it to the full board.
Right.
I presume it could make. I think everybody in our committee wanted the whole board to hear the discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody from the board have any questions for Andrea or Shannon?
I will make a motion to.
Hold on. I want to give you guys an opportunity first. And this is probably just my own ignorance, but Andrea, on page 1 of 19, under administrative overhead in the first category, is that showing a deficit of 2.667 million?
No, that's actually what happens is that amount is what is spread to all of the other programs.
Okay.
So that each program within the health department pays a share of the administrative overhead.
Okay.
And it is spread by the percent of salary and range in each program.
Okay. So each of the programs then in blue following that admin division and going through, looks like all of the pages, that should get us to the 2.667. Okay. Okay. So, Dan, are you asking for board's initial approval on this?
Yeah, so this, I mean, it's the initial 2023 budget. It's a functional budget. Things change, it ebbs and flows. This is the best guess at very calculated, educated best guess at what our budget is going to be throughout the year. And we will bring amendments to the board as we need to throughout.
Shannon sharpens her pencil.
Yes. Yes.
So I think it's important to point out too in your memo here. And as you pointed out, I'm assuming you've been to all 4 counties at this point and done your presentation.
Yeah,
like you did for Charlotte County.
For the annual report, 2021 annual report.
It's important to note on paragraph number 3, this initial budget reflects no increase in local appropriations over the previous year's funding levels. So that's big to note, I think, for each of the commissioners sitting here. When we go back to our own respective county commissions, we can say, well, you heard Dan, he said we weren't asking for any additional money. That's
he was in
that's a big thing. Yeah,
and
he did the same thing with Charlotte County, and I'm sure he did with your county. So, but I wanted to underscore that.
Are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for your motion.
I only have one objection, is an increase in environmental fees. As a former business owner, I felt like I was being choked for every time I turn around with their environmental fees. So I'm just not a big fan of that.
You want to address that, or you want to?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I can share these bar graphs with you. Just try to.
Well, I think the increases are to offset some of the additional expenses.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have increasing costs, due to inflation and other, factors. And these fees are user fees. and yeah, I mean, we're trying to, I guess one thing I would say, Commissioner Mark, is I just try to be thoughtful when I'm looking at these fee increases and compare it to other health departments and make sure that we're in line, you know, not going way up above or, you know, kind of staying in line with what others are doing in the region, and just trying to be thoughtful that way. And there may be times that we, you know, don't increase fees, which I did looking at our fee schedule for certain things. I did not increase fees because we were already, you know, getting up there. So
Does that, and I know you were the environmental health director previously. Do the fees that you set from the different departments, are they a request to you from the department heads based on the expenses that they see, or is that something that you primarily are responsible for as the health officer?
Really, it was a function of just working with Andrea and looking at what the environmental health budget was looking like, and due to increased costs, doing a modest fee increase made sense to offset some of those costs.
If I remember right, also you had to add a sanitarian position.
We did
because of the increase in inspections and
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that was something that brought to the board as a report when I was the environmental health director, is just kind of keeping everybody abreast of the increase permits in the septic well program, what was going on there. And really, we had to bring additional staff on because of that increase, and just making sure that the citizens and those who were getting permits we're getting to them in a timely manner, and making sure that we could keep up with the work, because it was a huge increase. And that's what kind of happens in at the health department with environmental health, is we have to have a couple of years of justifying due to those increased services to bring somebody else on. And so we were at that point where we had to make that move.
Anything else from the board before we continue with Mr. Rubin's motion, which is time to make?
I will make a motion to approve the initial 2023 annual budget.
It's like you said, additional.
Additional.
Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Moved by Mr. Rubin, seconded by Mr. Calabredo. Is there any further discussion from the board? Okay, since we're authorizing the $31 million, let's do a voice vote, roll call vote, rather.
McInnes?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Calabredo?
Yes.
Rubin?
Yes.
Marcus?
No.
Roloff?
Yes.
Hankins?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. You have written reports from a number of the other department directors. And I believe most of them are here. Does anyone have questions for any of the staff members who are present? You found your question, Mr. McInnes, go ahead.
It was for Kathleen Jakunovich on the Community Health Division report. You have a paragraph that says, if your county is interested in partnering with our established programs for opioid and prescription drug abuse prevention projects through the 18-year Janssen settlement agreement, funds our substance abuse prevention team has established project proposals for interventions that we can carry out. Does that mean that we haven't done that, or we should do that, or what does that mean?
So for the Janssen settlement funds, that is new funding that counties are receiving from the state of Michigan. We've been receiving updates from Northern Michigan Regional Entity, which is our substance use prevention funder for a lot of our programs. And
it matches with a lot of the work that's already being done in the health department. So we can basically wrap those funds that the counties are receiving into some of the work that's already happening.
So is Emmett County participating?
The funding, I think, was just, I don't know if it was.
Yes, Emmett County is participating. Every county in the state of Michigan is participating.
Funds, but it's just now being released to companies. I'm not sure where.
Okay.
It's been happening.
So we could request then for the counties to forward funds to the health department.
We have a page and a half of proposed programming that would fit into the funding that the counties are receiving. So really, there's a conversation to be had from our subsidy.
But you're contacting the county administrators, or who is managing it in the counties?
I actually don't think managing it in the counties. I'm assuming the administrator.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that the commissioners here were aware of it, so we, if it came up in meetings. But the counties know that we have staff and we have programming that fit into that funding.
Right.
It doesn't have to be used specifically for prevention. It can't be rolled into like the.
So I should send a note to our administrator saying, how's it going with this Janssen money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the money is spread over 18 years.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
It's a very small amount each year, but there are a list of approved activities that need to be done with that funding. And that's something that the health department, we already do that work.
I can't imagine what department in the county would do that.
Sure. So that's why we're bringing the ask again to keep us in mind.
Thanks.
Emmett County's got safe, so that's
Right.
a good program that,
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board for any of the directors?
Yeah, for Dr. Meyerson on the rabies in Antrim County, you know what that was about, or?
We've been really busy with calls about animal bites and bats in people's homes, bat exposures, and Antrim County has a very good animal control officer that lets us know about all of them. So, and you only see the ones that we're informed about. We're not necessarily informed about every dog bite, but if an animal control officer forwards that information to us as they're supposed to, we record it. But we've had a lot of bat exposures this summer.
No, this isn't, they don't necessarily have rabies, they were just bites or.
Correct. It's when there's a potential for rabies. So anytime someone is bitten, or a bat exposure, or bitten by an animal that could potentially be rabid, our nurse will provide, make phone call and see if they want information and investigate it to see if there's a potential for rabies. Fortunately, not very often, but there's that potential. So that's how that's recorded. Those are people, those are humans, citizens, or visitors who had some exposure where you have to consider rabies.
We only have one officer right now too. That's pretty bad.
A lot reported.
And then for Amanda on high blood levels, your last paragraph, blood lead. Just wondering, do we have any hypothesis? I mean, it's kind of like smoking. You don't want people to smoke, but if they start, it's really hard to get them to quit. So if they've already got blood and high lead in blood, it's almost too late. So is there anything that we know that we can do to?
Yeah.
Before,
so along
do we have, if you and your kids live in a house that was built before, I'm just throwing something out there.
No, that's exactly actually what happens. All the prevention and the screening information is what we do for blood lead. So most of it is prevention. So a pediatrician should be testing for blood lead. We test for blood lead in WIC so that we can find those lower numbers. And that's where they dropped to 3.5. That's a really low. It used to be 15. It used to be like quite a bit higher. And we're slowly, as our prevention measures get stronger and lead is less prevalent, we're dropping that number even lower so that we can manage and do that prevention at an even like a level that's even higher, where you or I, you can't even see lead in their levels, and Dr. Myerson has more to say.
So,
He's like-
well, I mean, we also, her staff also promotes things that help reduce lead poisoning in babies and we can educate families if they're in an older home, things they can do, the way they can clean the house or, you know, programs they can do to help reduce lead exposure in the house. We've removed lead trying to remove lead from the environment, you know, with unleaded gas and getting lead out of the paint and everything. And then nutrition, you know, one of the most important things to protect a young child from lead poisoning is having a good hemoglobin, not being anemic, getting good nutrition. So that's a big part of what the WIC program does is you have a child who is, has poor nutrition, they are much more susceptible to having adverse effects from lead poisoning. So a healthy baby is your best protection besides the baby lead.
So what's the two biggest ways that kids get lead?
Ingestion.
Yeah, it's still lead, and it's ingestion from dust from lead paint in homes is still the biggest thing.
Soil from around the home, you know, where lead paint has come off over the years. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one too. And kids just tend to be, you know, because they're down by the floor and they're perfect height to chew on a windowsill. Those old windows from sliding up and down inside the casement produce a lead dust that is, you know, perfect. You know, I don't know. I mean, my kids did it. They take a little car and put in a little trough, you know, on the window. It's like the perfect height, you know, when they're first standing up and things of that nature. So, and then, yeah, for the pathway for lead exposure through kids is ingestion, you know, 80% ingestion, 20% inhalation, and then it switches for adults. So the pathway is no longer ingestion is not the highest risk there, it's inhalation. So that's why, like in the workplace or like people that paint old houses, it's important not to have sand and or do wet sanding and that type of thing.
I can just add that this training that we talked about at the very end was available to all of our staff. This was a new training that really was interactive and even, you know, had nurses pick out what places in this home so that you could then educate families in this way so that they can have specific places to be just thinking about.
Just a basic question. I'm very familiar with the plume that we dealt with in the last few years, and it's still on my mind. Have we denied any permits within the Shush Mountain Resort area as of late due to not being able to?
You know, I couldn't
even with the MASA partnership.
I think a lot of realtors and everybody has had a lot of information on it in the past, so there's been a lot of people avoiding that area right now.
No,
so,
which is not good.
Yeah, exactly. So I could get you that information to see if we had any denials recently or not. Yeah, so I can give you the short answer. I don't know.
I know from, you know, before Jeremy took over as environmental authority, when I was there, I didn't have any denials. We didn't have any denials. I would have heard about it from that.
Because my main concern is where we can step in again and do something further to create a better access to water, whatever MASA needs. I know that's been, we we had supplied some money at the county level to do so. I believe it might have to happen again before we spend all our money versus the ARPA money. It would be nice to know more about it, just how that information.
Yeah, and it's changed all the time, really, because right now I believe on the leading edge of that plume, we're starting to see some trace amounts show up where there hadn't been before. So
well, it hit that riverbed and just kind of spread instead of going up.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of in some of the graphs that Jeremy put on there and the pics of the plume, it shows it kind of hooking and what the geologists and hydrogeologists are thinking that it's going to be venting into Shanty Creek, that actual because there's so much groundwater that vents and actually comes out in those hills as springs, which is good. Right, which is good. So if it vents to the surface, you'll actually have a lot of that evaporate, and once it hits the stream. So But that's why it kind of looks like it's hooking almost, and you can see right in its path, looks like Shannon Creek, the actual Shannon Creek. Yeah.
Anything else from the board? I would say, briefly, thank you to the directors who don't want to attend the 5 o'clock meetings. I get it. But you always present us with good information. You're always very responsive to the questions that the board puts before you. And you guys work hard. And we get that. And I think I speak for the entire board when I just say thank you for what you guys are doing.
It pains me to agree with you, but I do.
You know, if you run for re-election, we can have a great time on this board.
Dream would come true.
Coffee would be a good start. Having said that, committee reports. Personnel and Finance Committee, you guys just met.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that the finance committee met and recommends approval of the August bills in the amount of $720,982.37 and the August employee expenses of $19,063.68.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please, Jennifer?
Rubing,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Rolla,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
McKinnon,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Colorado.
Yes.
Program and Evaluation Committee.
And Scott, I'm sorry, to start off that, I'll just interrupt it. Our committee also looked at the purchasing policy. And staff, Shannon, along with Dan, took the existing purchasing policy that we've been talking about, because a month ago we said, let's take all of these policies that we've accumulated and give them to staff. And so what they came up with was a revised policy, but we asked some questions. And so it's gone back to them, but it was an excellent start. It's still only 2 pages long, so it's functional, but we had a very productive discussion, I think I would say, and address. And so we're gonna talk about this again next month. I just want to mention that.
I sat through part of that meeting as well, and I thought you guys were very productive with that. So thank you for your questions. I thought they were good ones, and Dan, to his credit, said, "Hey, let me take this back and rework it a little bit."
Yeah.
So,
but it was an excellent start. I mean, the changes, the questions that we had were pretty well focused and on point, and so I think we're in good shape here.
We narrowed it down, I think, pretty good, and we'll be ready for next time.
Yeah, so Shannon in her first week has really jumped right in.
well, I think it is. I think, Nancy, let me take this back and have Shannon rework it.
Yeah.
I think that was the subtext, Shannon. I know you don't know that one yet. Okay, Program and Evaluation Committee, Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, we met at our last meeting and we decided that we will continue the bylaws discussion starting next year. So we didn't think there was anything that was urgent for right now, and recommended that some of the discussion topics we had would be kept and passed on to the next committee.
Yeah, I would point out too, as part of that discussion, we have an RFP for legal counsel, which I think Mr. Kuntz indicated that he would like to have legal counsel when we have new legal counsel, whoever that may be, review some things with the bylaws revision. And this board stands to change dramatically in the next few months. So I think it makes sense for us to have the fresh faces to move forward with that. Okay, anything further from either of those committees?
Oh, with regard to the legal counsel, we also discussed the RFP that went out for legal counsel. But the period of time is still open, so I think it's September 16th. That's correct. When it is closed. And then we're gonna meet at 3 p.m. prior to the next meeting, and we'll give a first look at what has come in.
Okay, good, thank you. Brings us to item number 10, ladies and gentlemen, which is public comment again. Is there any members of the public who would like to address this board? Hearing none. Commissioners update. Real quick. Commissioners update. Do you have anything?
Right.
Anything?
The opioid, I looked it up. Emmett County will be receiving $542,000, which comes to around $30,000 a year for the next 18 years.
Thank you.
Antrim County is $825,000, Charlotte County is $663,000, and Otsego County is $983,000. And I don't know how they figured it out. The judge decided it, so that's all I can say.
I think it was decided by the number of opioid prescriptions written in the county.
Okay.
And there also was a kicker, for those that signed on pre the early, so we had Sioux County signed on right away, and we, got a little kicker.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Roloff?
I just want to remind the committee that they're gonna have to move just a little bit faster so I can stay in, because January 1st, I won't be 7 months to go. So anyway, I see, I mean, today I think you had a beautiful meeting today. And it's been a pleasure now to work with you, but I want to take care of my next 3 months too. So thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, sure.
Anything else? Going once, twice, 3 times, Mr. McKinnon. We have
whatever it is.
We have to move to adjourn. Before we do that, Mr. Burrell has one more thing.
I just wanted to, thank everybody for coming out to the Mansell Family Resource Center and checking out the building and taking the show on the road, so to speak. So I appreciate everybody coming out, and a few of you went on a tour of the building and checked it out. So I appreciate that. And we had, this has been, this building has meant a lot to the community, and I think it's been a lot of good, bringing a lot of services together and made some positive change in the community. So really appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. McKinnon to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pallarito. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
If any of the board members are